welcome to this latest webinar around cultural intelligence for coaches. So today we're going to be talking to a dear friend and colleague of mine, Tracy May. So Tracy and I have worked together extensively for a number of years, developing coaches. But Tracy is also a managing partner of Diversitas, which is a diversity and inclusion consultancy based out of Dubai but working globally, and uses coaching and leadership development as a way of, I'd say, developing more inclusive leadership.
Yeah.
So it's really, Tracy brings expertise around areas such as unconscious bias, which I know are familiar topics to a lot of people that listen to these sessions. So firstly, thank you for making this time. And I was really keen to talk to Tracy about another area of expertise that she provides to organisations and coaches, which is this whole piece of cultural intelligence. So in the session today, we're really going to look at what cultural intelligence means, but also start to think about why it's important to us as coaches, and also how we may start to look at this within our practice as well. So it's going to be a dialogue between Tracy and I, but as always, if you've got questions, please feel free to reach out to me after the session via our website. So Tracy, let's just start, I think, with what cultural intelligence actually is.
Yes, it's a great question, because when we hear the word culture, a lot of us just assume we're talking about ethnicity. But the research on cultural intelligence and cultural capability has evolved quite a lot in the last 10 years. And when we talk about cultural intelligence now, we're actually talking about a broad understanding of culture beyond ethnicity. We're talking about gender culture, educational background. We're talking about including ethnicity. We're talking about age, generational culture. So cultural intelligence is, if you like, the next step on from emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is the capacity to understand what the rules of the game are in a particular context, how I need to show up, how I need to behave, how I need to communicate, what is acceptable, what is not acceptable in this context. Cultural intelligence takes it one step further and says that when I move out of a familiar context into a new context, I'm actually able to recognize that the context has shifted and to adjust my behavior, to adjust my thinking and my approach accordingly. So it really builds on, and it's been argued that it's one of the most important capabilities of the 21st century, for the simple reason that we are incredibly agile as leaders, having to move across different contexts. We've got virtual teams, we've got teams in different geographies. So in terms of cultural intelligence, a one-size-fits-all leadership style just doesn't work anymore. So cultural intelligence is the capacity that leaders have to be able to flex their leadership approach, adapt their approach when working across these different contexts and dimensions. Very critical for leadership success in today's world.
Yeah, and I suppose as I'm listening, I'm already seeing, for my own practice, the different cultures that I'm meeting, whether that's the global work I do or just the different contexts that I work in.
Yeah.
I like the link with EI as well, being this is a build on from that sort of self-awareness about me. So if I can ask, how did you connect to this work?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, because when I started my own company several years ago, we were a leadership and coaching organization working in an extremely diverse market. So Dubai has been named the most diverse city in the world. And we really do deal with multiple dimensions of diversity here: religion, ethnicity, age, and so on. And working in leadership and coaching, what we found was that a lot of the problems that clients were coming to us with were actually rooted in diversity challenges. My team doesn't get on, the JV's not working out, these two people can't seem to get the act together and lead in a cohesive way. And what we found is there were multiple diversity dimensions that were at play. And so we began to do a bit of root cause analysis and help clients to understand the differences that they were dealing with and to work more effectively with those differences. And so it was a natural pivot from pure coaching and leadership to really looking through the lens of diversity and inclusion and how these problems and solutions related to diversity dynamics. So at a certain point in 2017, we just decided we need to be more explicit about this pivot because we are in the D&I space now, and we are offering clients the ability to shift behaviors towards inclusion. And so we became more explicit about it, and that's where Diversitas as a concept in the business really came into the Middle East. Yeah.
Thank you. And so just sort of building on this sort of sense of connecting with this as a topic, if you think about the coaches you work with, why would you say it's important to them to connect to this work? Really?
That's a great question. So as coaches, one of our mandates is to hold space for somebody else and to be able to get into their world, to understand what the world looks like from their perspective. And a lot of us as coaches have quite a keen understanding around personality dynamics and how they impact preferences and behavior. And we use that, don't we, when we're in coaching to try and understand what this person might need and what kind of language I need to use and how might I connect with them in a more powerful way. Culture is another lens that offers us insight into how somebody else experiences the world. And again, the broadest use of the term culture. So we look at worldviews, we look at educational background, we look at the earliest influences on a person's life in terms of what created their value set. We look at their religion and how that informs how they approach life. So in order to understand all of these broader cultural dynamics, we need to have some cultural intelligence. And my experience of working with coaches is that some of them are highly culturally intelligent and others are not. So it became clear to me that it's not a given because somebody has done coach training that they actually have this ability to understand the world of another in a really powerful way and to shift their coaching approach accordingly. My experience is that some coaches sort of become schooled in a particular approach to coaching, and they actually find it quite difficult to let go of that and to flex it when it's needed. And I guess being marinating in diversity for the last 13 years and longer, really. I mean, I left my own context in the 90s. So my entire life there's been exposure to different cultural contexts. I just realized how much we miss when we don't have a broader understanding of cultural intelligence that we can use in our coaching engagements, especially when coaching diversity.
Yeah, and that's sort of, I suppose, listening to that piece around perhaps a coach getting anchored to one way of working or model or approach. So I suppose where that takes me in thinking is, I don't want to take us off on a tangent, but this whole idea of, I suppose, what works in the West.
Yeah.
And so I suppose, bear in mind, I'm in Dubai with you at the moment, just thinking about how we may need to adapt or shift our approach with different cultural context.
Absolutely. Yeah, and a really good example of that is in the sort of Western models, we talk about performance coaching. We are taught that when we go into a coaching conversation in an organization, and all the work we do is in organizations, that there are certain topics that are on the table, there are certain topics that are not on the table. So how somebody's doing at work and their work experience is definitely on the table. And from a Western approach, their religion would be off the table. It's not something we talk about. And I've spoken to a lot of Western coaches who are actually quite petrified of raising the issue of religion because from a Western perspective, we tend to think more in boxes. There's private and there's public, and that definitely falls in the private category. In collectivist cultures and Eastern cultures, it's a completely different mindset. So if you really want to understand what informs somebody, what motivates them, what really makes them get up in the morning and takes them to their role, you need to look at their broader life. And failing to understand a little bit more about how their religion and their values that come from that religion inform their approach to work means that you leave out a whole aspect of the person and it's a missed opportunity. So that kind of paradigm shift that needs to happen when you're working with diversity, the assumptions that we don't even know we have, that we need to begin to become mindful of and begin to question and challenge.
And so, if I was interested, in perhaps I'm starting to experience, as I say, work with a different culture, whether that's an organisational culture or I'm meeting perhaps a different region or whatever in my work. If this was something I wanted to start to explore, what would you say would be a good way to start to connect to this?
Yeah, so a great way to begin to connect with this is to, if I break down the model that we use of cultural intelligence a little bit, just to help you understand. So the outdated idea that cultural intelligence is knowing a lot, and that once you know, here are the books, read up, and once you know, you're culturally intelligent. And that no longer holds water. Okay, so the research has become much more nuanced since then, and we've developed much more sophisticated models. But the model we work with has 4 components. So if I wanted to begin to become culturally intelligent, the first thing I would look at is my own drive or motivation around it. Okay, because it doesn't matter what you tell me and what you teach me. If I'm not interested, that's not going to help me become more culturally intelligent. And drive is interesting because when we look at diversity, there are some diversity dimensions that we're really motivated to learn more about because they're interesting and fun and we're curious about them. There are other diversity dimensions that we find really challenging to want to go deeper into. So if I said to you, for you, it might be that you like working with older people because you just find their wisdom, energizing, and you like to explore that within their life experience. But you might have a real difficulty working with people from a different political affiliation, or somebody with different personal habits, or somebody who valued placed more emphasis on the value of respect over the value of honesty.
Yeah.
And so you found that they weren't always telling you the whole truth.
Yeah.
So motivation is important to understand because there will be biases, there will be judgments, prejudices that I hold around certain diversity dimensions that I don't hold around others. So as a coach, noticing what is it that I feel drawn to, what is it that I feel concerned about when dealing with diversity, and how might that affect the way I show up? So that's the first aspect I need to understand. Here's the key insight. We don't show up the same way with everyone. In our minds, difference is what belongs to out there. But there's a lot of difference in here in terms of what my perceptions are about what it is I'm about to go into and how I actually prepare myself for that and how I actually show up for it. So that's the first piece. The second piece is knowledge. So it's important to have some knowledge, but the knowledge we're talking about here is not the deep dive into a specific culture, Japanese culture, Māori culture. The knowledge is more around the ways in which groups and subgroups are similar and different. So here we might have a broader knowledge of worldviews, different worldviews, and how they impact people's beliefs. Maybe some of the cultural values dimensions. What is it that I would see someone do if they were from a collectivist society versus an individualistic society? Taking it into coaching, how would somebody use their language if they were collectivist? And one of the things I notice when coaches introduce themselves, for instance, is if I say to them, tell me a bit more about you, when they're from collectivist societies, they will talk about us. Yeah, they see themselves in relation to the group. If they're from individualistic societies, it's very much about the self. So taking that forward into coaching, where is the locus of control? Is it with me or is it with us? Because if you take an individualistic, which is the Western model, approach to working with that person and you're inviting them to step into what you're doing is actually pulling them counter to their very strong cultural value, which is actually about we. So knowledge is useful, and all knowledge will ever give you is a working hypothesis. You'll never know everything. All it can do is help you to go in with some assumptions that, of course, you then have to test. Yeah, so that's the knowledge piece. And then the third piece is around strategy. So once you're motivated and you know, or you think you know, you have a working hypothesis, how are you going to strategize? And for instance, one of the strategies in coaching, when you're coaching diversity, is test as many assumptions because you have no shared worldview. You have no shared platform from which to understand the world. And what is self-evident to you may not be self-evident to them, especially when you're working across the language barrier. So language, there's often not a shared understanding of language. So when you say the word coaching and they hear the word coaching, it's not the same thing. So all of those kinds of understandings that you need to bring in and be more intentional about how you strategize. The other piece about strategy, of course, is noticing your own cultural lenses and how they influence the way you show up. So that comes into it too. And then the last piece is action, which is the part that other people see. So the first 3 dimensions are internal. The fourth one is how do you actually show up? And then it's important to understand how we leak our perceptions and our judgments through our body language, how we actually read the verbal and the non-verbal signals, and how we are able to mirror that to build rapport. So it's the actual felt experience we create for the other person in the moment. So these are the 4 aspects as coaches that we need to think about in building our cultural intelligence. And the starting point, of course, is to turn that lens inward and start to understand our own culture. And it's often said that the hardest culture to come to terms with is your own. Because we have this idea that other people have culture. We don't. You know, it's just the water we swim in, we're not aware of it. So so it's something that you can build. It's a skill that can be built. And I think there's value in bringing it into coaching and helping coaches to become more aware of these different dimensions to make us more impactful in engaging with diversity.
And I suppose as I listen to you, and when I think of a simple definition for me about emotional intelligence, it's all about adaptability. You know, as a result, that self-awareness.
Absolutely.
And I suppose this is where my thinking is going in terms of this. So you gave us one example of, I'm just interested now about the sort of individual versus the collective. If there was another example around that knowledge you could give us, just so we get more of an understanding.
So high power distance, low power distance. So for us as Western trained coaches, we might see rapport building and the success of our ability to build rapport in terms of how informal the engagement becomes, right? So we started off a little bit stiff and formal, but now we're on first name terms and it's really easy and we can joke and that's a good indicator for us. But somebody from a hierarchical culture or a high power distance culture, that attrition towards a peer kind of engagement, the attrition of the power distance towards a peer engagement could actually get in the way of their ability to engage successfully with the coaching, because there is a level of comfort with the power distance and the sense of I'm sitting in front of an expert, I am learning from the wisdom of an elder, and this is what makes this coaching engagement so valuable to me. So it's possible to build rapport and keep the power distance. And it's interesting to notice how uncomfortable we might become with that, because it's not what we're used to. What's very tempting for us to say, this is familiar, therefore it's right. And it's not necessarily right, because it's familiar, because my question to that is right for whom? So it really, when we engage with diversity, it really requires us to dig a little bit deeper into our own givens, what we've taken as given, our own idea of what good looks like. And because of sheer numbers, the majority of the world is not Western. I don't even know how to say that strongly enough. You know, so if we want to remain relevant and we want to become effective at really engaging even the next generation, we have to know what our own cultural lenses are. We have to know what the water is that we like to swim in, because we won't be swimming in that water very long.
And I, you know, as I listen and I think about my own practice, I suppose it makes me connect to leaders that I'm working with and the challenges that they're experiencing. Not necessarily because they've moved region or territory, but just within their own organisation in terms of, I suppose, not just the different generations that are at play, but like you say, in terms of the global workforce that they're now leading and managing.
Absolutely.
And I suppose it comes back to that adaptability bit as well, adapting their style, etc. as well. So again, I mean, if the coaches are listening and they're starting to get interested in this, and I know you're going to be running a program for coaches, because we were talking about this earlier. So, and just to say, the program will probably take place in Dubai and London, for instance. But if they were interested, and I appreciate, they can contact me for more information. But just in terms of a sense of what the program high level looks like, it may be interesting for some listeners to hear that.
Yeah. So the program really consists in 3 parts. The first part is a psychometric, where you can take a survey to try and understand your own cultural influences and lenses based on these 4 dimensions. So looking at your motivation, looking at your current knowledge, your current level of strategy, planning, and your current level of action in terms of how you show up. So, because the first step we have to take is to understand our own. So that's where the program starts. And then the next step is really to understand the model and understand what your results are saying about you as a coach. And that portion of the program is online. So you'll do the assessment, you'll get your results, and then you will be taken through the 4 steps of the model online, so that you can understand what your results tell you about you, so that by the time you've done that, you have a pretty good idea of your own cultural influences. And then the third stage of the program is a day face-to-face, where we actually go into activation. So we actually use the knowledge you've gained to give you some tools to be able to work with clients around these concepts. And we do some activation and give you strategies to do that. And we do practice and feedback, so we get a sense of how well we're actually showing up in that space and where our learning areas are. So it's a rapid fire movement through the concepts that are important to understand and some of the activations. I would see it as a starting point. I would not see it as a finishing point. It's a bit like with any new learning, you move into conscious incompetence and you realize how much of it you don't know. And what happens after that is, through practice, you start to bed down some of these understandings and move forward. But in the longer term, I imagine that there will be master classes on particular issues, topics that will help to further embed that learning, because it's an ongoing learning process.
No, it sounds exciting, and I suppose as we're talking, I'm already just reflecting on my practice, and the value this will bring, a sort of sense of some security, in terms of just starting to work through this area. But I suppose just to sort of start to bring things to a close for this conversation, if there were some key advice that you would give coaches listening who may be finding challenges in the way that they're working with different cultures, and again, we're talking about culture in its broader sense. What advice would you give, Tracy?
Yeah, so I think the question we have to ask ourselves when we are facing challenges is, what are we attached to? What are we perhaps too attached to? Coaching is an ongoing learning journey. What was really scary 2 years ago is now in your comfort zone. So there is the invitation to push the boundary a bit wider. And sometimes what stops us from doing that is the attachment to certain things that we take as given. If you're too attached to the model that you use, if you're too attached to your approach, if you're too attached to having a certain outcome, these are things to notice. And to really challenge yourself to open up your lens a little bit and ask yourself, what would happen if I wasn't attached to that and I could find other ways of working with this person, and what might be more useful for this person. So I think it's part of the ongoing growth. I think these are questions we should ask ourselves as coaches anyway. But I think that the whole body of knowledge of coaching needs to be allowed to evolve in line with the diversity that we're dealing with. And it's not about throwing away the old, it's about and. You know, so the challenge for us as coaches is, what does the coaching of tomorrow look like? And am I there? Am I ready for that? Or am I too attached? What do I need to let go of? What do I need to enter into in order to stay relevant, for my practice to be sustainable, and for me to genuinely feel that I'm adding value? Because most of us are in coaching because we want to add value. But who's that for?
Yeah. Thank you. And if there was one resource or something that may support somebody to connect to this content a bit more, what resource would you recommend?
I think that there is a lot of really good literature around CQ, cultural intelligence. So the cultural intelligence model was developed by academics about 10 years ago and is very well articulated in literature. So I would say, as a foundation, read up on CQ, look at the model, start thinking about how this might impact your approach as a coach, and what it might mean for you when you explore a little bit deeper into each of those dimensions, what it might mean for you as a coach and for your practice.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate you doing this and taking the time. And as I said, if there's any questions from anyone, please connect to me via the website, and I can always connect with Tracy just to get a response as well. But information will be coming out about the program. It sounds exciting.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Danny.